Humans thrive with motherhood and fatherhood, right?
Yeah.
And this is a huge political tangent, right? Broken homes create so many societal problems, and if a human is exposed to a father figure and a mother figure who both provide unique and different value, they are thriving.
Nuclear homes are successful for a reason.
Yeah.
People like try to argue. It's like at the end of the day, it's like, yes, we can dispute this, but numbers don't lie. Yeah. Numbers do not lie. It's like when both sides have someone to reflect on, speak to, and also to, at the end of the day, just have somebody that you can confide in. Yo!
Nerds.
Mr. Gets It Done Right. Mr. Gets It Done Right.
We're 57 episodes in, and no one sees the hard work that David does in the background.
Turn the camera around.
Turn the fucking camera around right now.
David, hop in here.
Yeah.
Nah, but even too, yo, Dave, I'll give you like big shout out because like Schultze's main man is Dove, right? Dove gets everything done.
Yeah. No, without David, Nüvida is not what it is.
And David, that's
think about it. That's the video, the producing,
You are a Dove, Mr. Magic.
Mr. Magic, I like
Mr.
that.
Magic. That's what we're starting.
Is that a name, Mr. Magic?
Yeah.
David, Mr. Magic.
Mr. Magic.
Yo, Dave, put that in the handle, eh?
I like that.
So that's what we're starting, Mr. Magic.
Mr.
But anyways,
Magic.
yo, Andrew Norrie, thank you so much for joining Coco and I, honestly, on this podcast here,
100%.
bro. We've known you for a long time.
Yeah.
A decade.
Like we spoke earlier, it's been 10 years, brother, since we've seen each other like every day in high school, you know?
Yeah, so that's 14 years we've known each other.
Yeah,
and
totally.
reconnected after a decade apart. Crazy.
That's crazy. It was Grand Bend.
Yeah.
Randomly.
Walking
Perfect
down the
place to
street. Walking down the street. Yeah. And I was with my friends and I saw these guys. I'm like, no way. I let my friends go.
Because I remember you're literally like, okay, I'll catch up.
Yeah.
It was actually really cool that you gave us the time, and now we see you right in front of us.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, like, start from the bottom. What happened after high school?
Start from the bottom, now we're here. What happened after high school? I went to Western, so I stayed around here in my hometown, London. So I went to Western, did 2 degrees, and really didn't use them. Like, I think that's something we can talk about to kick things off, is just the dilution of the value of university, maybe.
Or education, right?
Yeah, or institutionalized education, right? And we were talking about this before the pod started, and education is so important. But I went to Western, did 2 degrees, and didn't really use them. After I graduated from Western, I moved to the United States. So I lived in the U.S. for 2 years. I was working for a nonprofit there, and that kind of got me into this sales thing, right? I'm shaking hands, I'm having conversations, but I'm not making a lot of money because it's a nonprofit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I'm like, okay, what am I good at, right? I don't want to use my degree to do anything, but I'm good at shaking hands and making conversations. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to get into sales, right? So I moved to Toronto because I'm a Canadian citizen. I get started with this small startup based in Toronto. I was employee 171. And then my first day, this is a funny story, my first day at this company was COVID lockdown. So on Sunday before the Monday lockdown in March or February.
No, March is March.
Yeah, March of 2020?
Yeah. March. It was March 21st.
The years went by quick, eh?
The years have flown by. HR emails me. They're like, oh, by the way, we're just going to 2 weeks away from the office, control the pandemic. We'll ship you your laptop. And here we are 3.5 years later. I work for the same company. We're 1,100 employees, global remit.
And are you still remote?
Still fully remote since day one.
Where's the craziest place they sent you?
So they haven't sent me anywhere crazy. Singapore, Australia, the UK. So it's been cool. Like
Was that crazy to you?
They're cool. They're for sure cool. But the remote thing allowed me to do something crazy. And when we went fully remote, the company made the announcement after my first year, I left Toronto. Toronto wasn't my speed. It's too expensive. I was cooped up in my condo with all the COVID rules, right? I'm not thriving. Mm-hmm. So I Google best place to be a digital nomad. And the first ad that popped up, Nicaragua.
Oh, yo. I feel like, relax.
No, come on, give it.
I feel like we're jumping the gun, though. Honestly, I feel like we're jumping the gun because at the end of the day, brother, like you went to Western University, right? And you said that you want to talk about the education part and how that's not like valuable to anyone. I went to Queen's University. I spent a fucking shit ton of fucking money for nothing. Because right now I'm a real estate investor. I'm a podcaster, and I'm not doing anything that's related to kinesiology. So like I want to touch on that before we jump in fucking Nicaragua, bro. You know what I mean?
No,
so
okay.
like
even I can agree.
Rewind.
Yeah, a little do that.
Even I agree with it. Like I did electrical mechanical engineering. I'm ready to quit it. Like it was good. It sounds good on paper. And I told my mom, you know what, I did this for you. But at the end of the day, it's like,
I guess run us through like the experience of like, you know, having to go through university and like maybe in 4th year, 5th year, you know, it's not really something that's like gonna go through. I know you're part of a frat though, so that makes shit different. I want to stay there for 5-6 years.
Frat.
Yeah, but no, explain that like whole experience, please. Yeah.
Explain the fraternity.
Okay. Oh, that's another one.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll keep this really quick because it was a chapter of my life in university, but it gave me leadership experience. So I was part of a men's leadership organization or a fraternity at Western. My brother was in it. A lot of my good friends were in it. And it was a cool experience because when you're that age in university, not many men get the opportunity to lead other men or problem solve with other men, right? But in a fraternity, you're forced into running an organization without an income, at a young age and dealing with, you know, hot-headed men, right? It builds this foundational problem-solving talent, and I think that was definitely an ingredient in my success today. A small ingredient, but for sure it helped.
And what I guess like what made you want to take that leadership role?
I was just involved, man. Like in my day one at Western, I walked over this flyer on the ground and it said Western rowing team tryouts or info session at Thames Hall tonight at 7 p.m. And I look at my watch, it's 4:30. I'm like, oh man, this is a sign. We were talking about those signs, right?
Yeah.
This sign, I pick it up. I'm like, okay, I got to go. So I go and I try out for the Western rowing team. I make the Western rowing team. And I joined some other clubs at Western and the fraternity as well. So I was involved and I was determined to make the most of this 4 years because the education piece offered some value, for sure, some value.
Yeah.
But not as much value as I think you should get if you're committing to something for 4 years.
Yeah.
But the clubs and the campus involvement in the varsity sports, that for sure does.
It's crazy how the network is kind of more valuable than what they're teaching you.
100%. That's what
Do you think it was your thirst for knowledge, almost in a way where you're like, I need to learn more, surround myself around the right people that brought you to where you are now?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say that. And, you know, network is net worth for sure. It's this tacky saying that we all know, but it's for sure accurate. And it's something that you guys are experiencing with this podcast, right? You're meeting people you never imagined meeting before. You're talking to them, podcasting with them, right? And you're building those relationships. So solving problems and challenges and being exposed to these things that you never imagined doing each of these experiences offers a modicum of value to you. And when that piles up, you become pretty unstoppable.
Earlier you had said problem solving within the fraternity. What was something that you leveraged really well? Let's go like right back there that you still think about that helps you today.
Totally. So team leadership, right? If you're leading a team, you need to get people to buy into an idea and work together to accomplish something, right? And there was a dozen examples of that throughout university where you're learning that, you're failing sometimes, you're successful sometimes. And I carried those skills into my career today, and we can talk about this later in the podcast as well. I'm still employed 9 to 5, despite the fact that I have other things going on. And I do lead a global sales team. So I lead salespeople in the UK and in Europe and Singapore, Australia, and across North America is my biggest team. So working with these people, they're all different. Some of them speak different languages. They all have different ideas and different job experiences. So you need that kind of foundational ability to relate to people and say, we have one job to do as a collective. How do we get there to that finish line and make this happen? So having those experiences in university for sure benefited me today where I'm making money, and that money is fueling what I really care about.
Yeah. Was that transition easy for like people in your network? Like when you told them like, listen, I don't want to do what I went to university for. I want to like completely like do a different route. Like, did they take that differently? Like maybe like your mom or anyone like around those lines?
Not really. My family, my mom in particular, is definitely an inspiration to me. She went to Western as well, but she's a doctor. So she went to medical school. And she actually went back to medical school after my father passed away when I was young. Yeah. So she was so inspired by the healthcare that my dad received when he was dying that she said, I don't want to be a physio anymore. I want to do something more with my life. So she, with a single mom with 3 kids, low income, went back to medical school for 10 years. And crushed it. She won a bunch of awards at Western and went on to become a doctor here in London, awesome. Which is really cool. So a bit of a tangent there, but she took a different direction in terms of her education, her profession than me. So she never really weighed in a capacity that said you're doing something wrong. Really, as long as I'm happy, as long as I'm headed in the right direction with success and securing my future, my family's going to be supportive, and I've been very blessed.
But like, that's so important that like you had that like leadership of someone to show you like perseverance, you know. And,
absolutely.
And especially like not especially, but like from like a woman though, you know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
geez, yeah.
Like that's powerful, man. Like that's why like you're the man you are right now.
Yeah, my mom is a huge inspiration, and a lot of my success has come from having my mom in my life, because she's gone through some stuff that not many people have to go through.
I want to ask you, did you like, especially like coming from your father not being there, so I can relate. Do you feel you have a chip on your shoulder almost in a way, especially as the oldest, where you're like, I have to get this done because like all the eggs are in one basket? Not necessarily, right? Because you have siblings, but you believe you have those eggs in your basket.
It's a really interesting topic, and I think to a degree I agree. And I don't know if it's a chip on my shoulder, but for sure, growing up without a dad, I think makes you feel like you just have to do it, right? Like there's these things that maybe sometimes we get taught with a father that I didn't get exposed to, and I just have to figure it out. And I feel this maybe unwritten obligation to accomplish things in his memory, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And to another degree as well, I feel as though I'm advantaged. And this is kind of a weird thing to talk about, but I had a fairly challenging childhood because I lost my father, and by no means not as challenging as so many people. But growing up without a father presents certain challenges, and I had to overcome those at a young age, and they make you a little bit more resilient. And I'm thankful for that. In hindsight, looking back, nobody wants to lose their father, but I made the most of, or I think I made the most of this experience, and I look at a lot of good things going on in my life, and that's why.
No, but that's special though. You turn a negative, like the most negative situation into such a positive. You know what I mean? And like I feel like that's what defines like your regular being from like someone who's trying to like better themselves, you know, and like keep on going and pushing, bro. Because like you can get stuck in negative thoughts the whole time. You can be like, oh, this happened, I'm gonna do this now, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a fucking rut. You know what I mean? And like the fact that you took that on and you're like, yo, like this is to make me better is actually super special, bro. Super special. I like my applause to you, honestly.
I appreciate that.
Honestly,
brother.
though.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, me too, man. Even to like, I think it's crazy for a lot of us that we don't think that we're not capable of being like the next person up, right? And I think for everyone, we all have that spot, right? But I think it takes certain moments, certain talks, or like certain people that actually push us to be the best person that we should be.
100%.
Yeah.
And
So
my relationship with my mom, seeing someone do this and go through something so challenging, has created this super hard to attain standard for partnership for me. Yeah. So I look at partners now and I'm like, would this person be able to do what my mom did?
Because that's the baddest. Yeah, she's the baddest. Yeah,
she's bad, man.
I fucking love that.
I want to date Superman or Supergirl, but like, you're not Supergirl. Like,
I'm trying to build an empire. If you can't keep up, you're not the one for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I think, even too, let's dive into that a little bit. Like, do you find it like, especially where you're at right now, as you're progressing, to find somebody that is either inspired, capable, keeping up with you, or even too that you feel comfortable with sharing your ideas or where you're at in life?
It's a very rare and select few people that meet that criteria. So it's an interesting dating pool for sure. I think our generation and Western society has a lot of mediocrity in it, and that's not to diss people. Society is society, but a lot of people don't meet certain standards that I'm looking for in partnership, but also relationships, family. Like, you got to have standards across the board.
Yeah. I feel like standards are just getting stomped on nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely they are.
Yeah, or they're not there. Like, I don't know. Me personally, I'm a family man. If
you're family man, eh?
100%. If you don't have a good connection with your family, I'm like,
red flag.
Red flag. Like, it's just like, I think it's like we innately want we want them to represent ourselves in the way, right? Like, that's why we seek our partners, because like at the end of the day, it's like they need to be a representation of who you are inside.
Yeah.
And if they don't.
After uni, right? Like, did you just jump full into like the workforce? Is that what you did right away, or like how did the real estate pop up?
So the real estate popped up, and we can go back to my mom here. My mom is a big reason why I got into real estate, and it was a total accident. So I had started working pretty early on. As soon as you could start working, I worked at the beer store. I was a bouncer at various nightclubs here in London. So I was making money, and I didn't have any spending habits. So I was saving money. And I remember I had $22,000 saved up, right? And at the time, I was like, man, I'm rich.
Yeah, all right.
I was like, I got so much money. And I was living at home for the first 2 years of university because I went to Western in my hometown. And I was like, I got to move out. I want to move out with my friends, right? I want to experience university. So I went to my mom and I said, hey, I'm moving out. I got $22,000. And she's like, okay, but let me put this idea in your head. Don't move out and rent. Go buy a house. And I was like,
smart woman.
She's a smart woman. She's like, how much do you have? I'm like, $22,000. And I had no idea that I could buy a house at the age of 20, right? No one thinks that. And she's like, I don't really know how to do it, but go to the bank and ask them. So I went to TD Bank and I sat down. I'm like, hey, I've got this much money and I want to buy a house. They're like, okay, we think that can probably happen, right? 5% down, primary residence. You'll need a guarantor because you're 20. But you have the money. You can make this work, especially, and they weighed the income from a rental property. They're like, if you go buy a house with a couple rooms, this was back when TD and the other big banks would actually
they could leverage us.
They could provide loans on student houses. They don't really do that anymore. But anyway, so I went to TD and I got approved for a mortgage and I went to buy a house here in London for $289,000.
Fucking crazy.
Which is not a thing anymore. You can't find a house anywhere in Canada for that price, really. But I bought a house and I rented the other 4 bedrooms out of 5 to my friends and some randoms off of Facebook. I lived in the 5th bedroom in the basement. And at that point I realized I'm making money every month.
That's
right? Like
crazy.
they're paying me rent $500 a room, which is also not a thing anymore.
Even more now.
Yeah. And I'm like, there might be something to this.
Yeah.
So I only had the one house when I graduated. I sold that house because I moved to the United States and I wanted to move the profits. I sold it for a profit.
We're in the States.
I was bouncing around various parts of the States. So I lived in Portland, Oregon, Chicago, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, Ohio, and Chicago. So 5 cities in the States. Yeah.
Well traveled.
And that's kind of where the travel kicked off. But I was a consultant for various universities working there. So I bought a house in Windsor, Ontario. I had a realtor at the time who said, hey, Windsor's up and coming. It's kind of like it was the grimy part of Ontario, but it's on the up and up. And now we know today, 2023, Windsor is on fire.
Oh, yeah.
So I bought it. I ported my profits from that London house into a house in Windsor because I wanted to have something near the border so that worst case scenario, I could drive up from Cincinnati or drive from Chicago and take care of it.
Yeah.
And that house started doing really well. I bought that one for $220, I think, really cheap.
Yeah.
Rented that, was making some good money, and then slowly and steadily, like every year, bought another one, and here we are today.
Yeah. So that's when you realize, like at the end of the day, like it's the assets that really make you wealthy.
Okay, so let's talk Norrie Capital then. Since we're here.
Yeah. Norrie Capital is one of my companies. And it's the product of expertise that I never had, right? I went to my accountant, I went to my lawyer and said, hey, here's where I'm at with my real estate holdings. I've got a lot of houses in my personal name now. It's starting to get hard to get loans. What should I do? Here's my goal, right? I want to have XYZ units by XYZ time. And they're like, you got to set up a corporation. I'm like, how do you do that? So I set up
asking simple questions.
Exactly, right? And that's advice for everyone listening to the podcast. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to learn it on YouTube. You don't have to learn it from a book. Just go talk to a professional and say, here's where I'm at today, and here's where I want to get to. And they're going to say, okay, you should probably do this, this, or this. And that's what I did. So I started a corporation called Norrie Capital, and it now holds a number of my real estate assets as well as some bigger projects that kick off in the fall. And the goal for that company is actually to turn it into a REIT, an REIT, real estate investment trust in the future. Because I know that I do one thing really well, and it's flip houses, buy houses, and build houses. A lot of people don't want to get into that, right? There's a lot of people out there who make good money, and they don't want to be hands-on. They don't want to fix toilets. They don't want to put up drywall. They don't want to deal with the stress of interest rates and talking to banks. Rather, they want to give their money to someone and make money with their money from real estate. And that's where REITs come in. So, a lot of big names, and shout out to Jeff Weibo here in London. He runs a big fund. And that's what I want to do with Norrie Capital is I want to give people the opportunity to give me $100, $500, $1 million. And I will go invest real estate with their capital and I'll give them a handsome return.
Is this something that you thought you'd be doing 10 years from now?
No chance.
No
chance.
That's fire.
Yeah. Everything that's going on today, I had no idea would be my thing. and I just kind of fell into it. But I'm so passionate about it and energetic about it and optimistic about it that I know it just, you feel that way, you know it's the right thing.
It's crazy you brought up REITs because I learned about them a week ago. Like I was with Joey Griffin and like he was talking to some like a big investor that like called in because he's a FA, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, yo, do REITs. And then he started studying on them and I was like, what is a REIT? Told me about it. I'm like, everything makes sense once you hear about it.
Yeah, real estate's big. And you look at Canada, right? And there's so many people who say real estate in Canada is going to crash or we're in this bubble. But if you zoom out to 10,000 feet, right, we are in a major housing crisis. There's not enough homes in Canada for people, and we're bringing in so many immigrants to this country, right? Last year, we brought in over 1 million new Canadians, right? Or the population grew by over 1 million, right? We're a 40 million person country with a housing crisis right now. So how on earth can real estate be a bad investment in the long term? Sure, interest rates are a little bit spicy right now. I lose a little bit of sleep every once in a while about my interest rates, but this is an investment, a really sound investment class, and REITs are a great way to get into real estate.
Yeah. Are you like on a quarterly basis, it's like analyzing your whole portfolio there?
Totally. Yeah. I live and breathe Google Sheets. Right, I change my numbers as the interest rates go up.
Try to find me.
Yeah, right. I've got a couple cells in those Google Sheets that are red and they used to be green. But yeah, I analyze things, and it's important when you get to that certain level of real estate exposure because the banks are going to want to see that. Right?
Yeah.
You can't just send an email to a bank and say, hey, I've got XYZ. They're like, send me your portfolio numbers, send me your pro forma, and you got to have that on hand.
What's been a really big challenge, like taking on this big feat of like real estate?
I feel bad for this answer, but it hasn't been challenging.
No, I love it.
I want to explain.
You're swimming in water almost in a way. Like you feel like this is where you belong. And
yeah, my first house was my hardest, and frankly, it's gotten easier and easier ever since. And another thing we can talk about is systems, right? If you want to have 1 or 2 houses or 3 houses, and that's just be part of your investment, you can manage yourself. You don't have to build any crazy systems. You put out the fires as they come up. But I don't want to have just 3 houses, right? I want to have many, many more houses. This is to secure my family's future. So from day one, and this was because I actually wasn't living in the city where my assets were, I had to build out systems. I had to find a good realtor, a great realtor. I had to find a great property manager. I had to find great electricians and all these professionals to help support my portfolio from abroad. And that has built out the systems from unit 1 to where I'm at right now, where I don't have to go to Windsor. I buy houses, flip houses, sell houses, renovate houses. I don't go see them. It's all done via text, FaceTime.
Did you have any like business experience prior, or like where does systems come from, right? If you're managing people and teams and like projects, like where does that come from?
I think it came from the desire not to be super hands-on. It's all about scalability, right? I don't want to have my time and my location, my physical geographical location, be a blocker for scalability. I want to be able to do this from South America, which I've done, and we can talk about the nomad thing. I want to be able to, via text and FaceTime, grow my real estate portfolio and fully remotely take advantage of how the economy runs today.
So let's talk about the travels, the nomads.
Let's talk Nicaragua.
It's about time. This guy is dying to talk about
Nicaragua. Why the hell did you go to Nicaragua?
So I went to Nicaragua because my company went fully remote. And I had just been through a breakup. I left Toronto and I just wasn't feeling 100%. I'm like, I need a change of scenery. I got to reset something. So I Googled best place to be a digital nomad because my company allowed me to work from wherever. And Nicaragua came up as this awesome country. I'm like, I've heard of Nicaragua, but I've never been there. I think my dad was a photographer. What are we pointing at?
The camera.
I was like, do you have a poster of Nicaragua?
I just had to make sure they knew.
Make sure they knew, yeah. Me encanta Nicaragua. So I went to Nicaragua I learned a little bit of Spanish too. I went to Nicaragua for 2 months originally, just to work remotely, and I fell in love. I lived in this little town called San Juan del Sur on the Pacific Ocean. It was beautiful. I met incredible people from all around the world, made some good friends, and I'm like, this is it. So I extended my trip to Nicaragua. I then went to Costa Rica. I lived in Costa Rica for a little bit, and then Argentina, Nicaragua again, and then I finished up the better part of 2 years living in Barcelona, Spain.
How important is like your time for you, bro? You're not getting paid per hour. You're not expected to be here every fucking day. Like explain like your mental transition through that process.
Yeah, that was a different chapter of where my company's at right now. Right now, it's a little bit more corporate, but at the time we were a certified startup with a lot of flexibility and freedom. So living in those countries for 2 years was awesome. It was great to be able to experience these places and these people. And I think that kind of humbled me and created this spark for travel and for meeting other people, different kind of people, while having a great job. At the same time, it's really unique that you can have this great corporate job, this sales job, and you make pretty good money while being able to live on a beach. That's a unique experience.
Earlier you were saying like it's important to leverage like your time in general, right? Like you're not getting paid X amount per hour. Like you're on a sales team, right, where you get commission and stuff like that. Can you explain to like I guess like our audience like how you have to like really take advantage of your like capabilities, right? And take advantage of these sales jobs where you're getting paid maybe 40 an hour, 50 an hour, 60 an hour, depends on how hard you work.
Yeah, so this is advice I'd give to anyone looking to make a career transition or get into the workforce. And the end goal for me, and I'll preface this right now, is to get out of the workforce. I don't want to work for a company until I'm 60 or 65, like many of our parents did. I want to get out of that and be my own boss and create this financial independence and freedom. But working sales and working a job is a tool, and it's a means to an end. So I'd encourage most people who are hustlers and hard workers, you need to get a job that has variable income, right? Be it fully variable, so total commission jobs, those are a little bit scary, but the rewards are super high. Or you can go the route like me and just work in tech sales. And there's so many tech sales jobs, including entry-level tech sales jobs where I started, where you have a salary, it covers your bases, right? It covers your food, your rent, your expenses. And then there's variability to it. The better you do, the more you sell, the more money you make. And that's something that's really powerful. And I could never see myself working a job again where there's not variability to income. So the better I do, right? I wake up, I start work at 8, I start work at 9, and I'm going to do better, be more efficient, build out the systems at this job so that I make more money and I cap out my income per year. With that income, I deploy it to assets that are forever.
Yeah. I'd love to hear that. That's one thing someone told me too. It's like you can make $25 an hour, but you're capped out there.
Exactly.
Why would you put yourself almost in a box where you're like, you know how much effort you put, right? You could be the top earner, everything like that. But when you take a number on your earning, it doesn't really make sense, especially for like the attribution of effort to income.
Yeah. Like shout out my coach right now, Jack Bernstein. He's a big real estate investor out in Toronto. He's my mentor right now. And he really installed in my mind, like, listen, you can be like a laborer. You can work as hard as you fucking can, but guess what? You're replaceable. But once you start using your brain, once you start using your brand and your persona, all of a sudden now you're selling shit. You're making a lot more money per hour, right? So like he really like drilled that in my mind. It's like, yo, like you're valuable, right? Show it. Like don't just stay in a job where you're only getting paid X amount and you got to do what you got to do and then that they're happy. And you don't got to do any more, right? Like push yourself, like really be it. And like that was special, man.
I think it's really hard too, right? Like almost in a way we get indoctrinated right out of school, right? Like once we get out of school, it's like, this is the job you're going to work. This is what you're going to do, right? So then you have to talk to people like him, yourself, other people like our mentors and our coaches where they tell you, listen, you can leverage your time versus the money you make. Like you can make $100 in an hour. Why am I making only 25? It's all your effort, right? And it's I love what Rogan said. It's like it's not an economy of effort. We never live in an economy of effort.
And Rico, you just mentioned something valuable, and this is really for all jobs, right? And it's one of the reasons why I'm pursuing financial independence and running all of my own businesses is we're replaceable. In the workforce, no matter how valuable you are, and we see this right now, we're in a recessionary period in Canada, the United States. You have some very talented people at Meta, at Google. They're being laid off. They're just a number, right? A job, there's no such thing as 100% job security. And I can't live my life and form a family knowing that I'm replaceable. That's high risk. So, and many people who write books and speak in the financial space talk about this. A 9 to 5 is a high risk category of income.
Me too. You actually, thank you for the books you actually brought to us.
Of course.
And you love to read books. What's your top 5?
My top 5. So I'm going to mention some that have already been mentioned on your podcast. I've listened to most of your episodes. The 4-Hour Workweek is a game changer, right?
Tim Ferriss.
It gives some great ideas. Tim Ferriss is an icon. It gives some great ideas and just inspiration for how to remap your life. So Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek, I love. Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. Amazing. So many people mention this book, but if you're listening to this episode and you have not read Rich Dad Poor Dad,
go do it.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
You need to read this book tonight before you go to bed because it's a game changer. It remaps the logic behind making money. Okay. My number one book, and this was the recommendation that I'm excited to share with you guys, that not many people have read, is called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. So Napoleon Hill wrote a very famous financial book. And he also wrote, and this is in the 1930s, I believe, he wrote this book called Outwitting the Devil. He never published it because in the 1930s in the United States, right, it's pretty controversial to be writing about
rough
that.
time.
It's rough times, and it's a pretty religious country at the time. So he never published the book. His family, after he passed away, actually published it in, I believe, 2011. So it's fairly recently new, and it's this amazing book. And it's all about a conversation between Napoleon and the devil. And in this book, the devil takes the form of all negative thoughts, right? This is why you can't do this. This is why your family doesn't like you. This is why your relationships fall apart. This is why you can't be successful. And Napoleon outwits the devil throughout this entire book. And he provides this super valuable way of looking at life and problems. And I encourage everyone to read Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. It's a great book.
That's crazy because I
like
heard that fucking
heard
book
about it too.
was never released.
Yeah.
I
couldn't put it down.
I've heard about it, but even too, it's just like hearing why you kind of attach yourself to the idea. I think it's also something we all do, right? Mm-hmm. It's like fighting the devil.
Was it something where like it hit you so hard because you maybe were experiencing negative thoughts throughout the process?
Absolutely. And we were talking about this earlier. And to this day, I experience negative thoughts. And I think we can talk about this on the podcast. There's no stigma to negative thinking, right? I've achieved a level of success in my life, and I've got so much to be thankful for, but still those negative thoughts creep in. I find myself comparing myself to other people sometimes, or thinking that I can't do it. You need to ground yourself and realize these are just thoughts, right? You're so much better and so much stronger than these thoughts, and you're going to get through the tough times. And those good times, you're going to look back and say, oh yeah, I won that battle.
The human mind is crazy, eh?
Yeah.
I was going to say that. Do you think it's really hard to like fight ourselves? Because like we are like, everyone says we are our biggest judge, right?
For me, honestly, it's easy to fight myself because I'm my biggest critique. You know, like I can do something so good, or I can like feel like to the rest of the world I'm accomplishing shit, and I'm always criticizing myself like you didn't do this.
So you talk to yourself like very like
Man,
you have that
I
relationship with your conscience.
I really check myself and like maybe more than I should. Like who's to say maybe like not, right? It might not be healthy. It might be healthy. It might be healthy because it pushes me like more, but it might not be healthy because I'm always fucking thinking about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a really, really interesting thing. Like I find I'm pretty good at not competing with other people, but man, I'm competitive with myself,
right?
And I'm a stubborn motherfucker.
Yeah.
Pardon my French.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes that's great inspiration, and sometimes that's tough.
It's your worst enemy, right? Because you can't even like tell yourself you can do it, even though you can. You've done it before, and you have
a good escape clause though, and I'll give you that, bro. You're fucking hitting the gym like the fucking rock, yo.
Big boy.
Okay, so let's explain that, bro. How important is physical activity to everything you're building?
Totally. Physical activity is key for two main reasons. Number one, the mental health, right? There is a physical chemical tie between physical activity, physical health, and your mental health. And when I'm trying to build an empire and I'm balancing this really tough 9-to-5 job, relationships, fitness, my own business, like I'm a busy guy, it's easy to get worn out, and I need to make sure that my vessel that's carrying me is in optimal shape. So that's part one. Like that mental health tie is great. And we were talking about the sauna before the podcast started. If you're feeling down, go to the gym, go to the sauna, and I guarantee you're going to feel a little bit better. Not perfect, but you're going to feel a little bit better. The second reason I'm really into fitness is we look at finances as this key part of future success. Take a break and then Nicaragua. What do you want to talk about, fitness or Nicaragua?
Let's do fitness first. We can go into traveling after, because you've been other places other than Nicaragua, right? So let's do fitness. I think that's a good focal point.
Yeah. So we were talking about why fitness is a focus for me. Number one, the mental health reasons. You just got to make sure that you are an optimized machine for building an empire, essentially, right? Yeah. You take care of yourself and the results will show. The second reason why fitness is important to me is I'm thinking about everything long-term, and long-term is financial for sure, right? You know, if I want to have a family, which I want to do, and if I want to travel the world with my family and my partner, you need money. So I'm making financial decisions in preparation for that. But also, as I age, like I'm in my late 20s, I'm very close to 30, I want to make sure that I'm optimized for the future. And I understand that By the age of 50, 60, 70, people start to get sick. They start to get injured. So I need to make decisions, health decisions now, to prepare myself to be around and be healthy. And I want to be able to play with my grandkids, and I want to be able to go run a 5K and not break something. And I want to be able to pick up my grandkids. So I'm making these decisions now. And there's a lot of really cool science and math behind it. Like, it's not just going to the gym every day. So in January, I did blood tests for everything. And I had VO2 max tests as well. So I tested my testosterone and all my insulin levels. And so
for our audience, where do you get those tests? Like,
literally email your doctor or go see your doctor and say, hey, I want a blood script for XYZ, right? Whatever levels that you want to test. And they'll write you this, they'll send you via email a PDF of this blood script. You bring this blood script in person to Life Labs or Dynacare or any of these testing companies throughout Ontario, if you're in Ontario, or any lab around the world, and they're going to take your blood and they're going to email you back in 3 days with your results. So I set this baseline of cardiovascular health and testosterone levels in January, and then started making decisions with my life that optimize these things. So drastically reduced alcohol consumption, better sleep, and I know it's ironic we're drinking Cerveza right now.
Hey,
but
celebration though.
Celebration. We're celebrating friendships being reunited and all this stuff. And better sleep and fitness and supplementation of certain things and better diet. And I retested actually a lot of these levels after the 6-month mark, so last month, and all of these levels were looking better. Right? 6 months of focus on health.
That probably feels so fucking good.
It was
to see
awesome.
Your own body, like,
yeah, dude. I looked at these levels, and like obviously you see your body change, which is really exciting. Like, gets you fired up. But then you see these levels. It's like actually my mathematical numerical health is improving, and that gets me so excited. I can control my body, and that's powerful.
Okay. What got you into that? Like, was there a turning point? Like, was there a point where you really weren't caring about that stuff, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, fuck, maybe I should? Or?
I think maybe we all have social media, right? Mm-hmm. And you subconsciously compare yourself to other people, and you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, I'm not the man I could be. I could do better than this. Yeah. So it's a challenge. I'm like, I can go buy houses and build houses. Hell yeah. I can go take control of my fitness. Hell yeah. So I did that. And it's one of the best decisions I've ever made is I feel so much better. And when you feel good, you can build big things.
Out of the two things there that built you up, what built your biggest confidence? Because that's one thing I can actually say. Like, I've known you for quite a while. Your confidence is through the roof now.
And that's a great topic to say nowadays, because confidence in men in 2023 is very low.
That is such an important thing to talk about. And it's something I'm so passionate about. Men get the shit end of the stick in society today, and we do not talk about it enough, right? Men's Mental Health Month was in June, right?
I think
who talked about that?
Fucking buddy.
To be honest with you, this year I think it was the least talked about, and I'm telling you very honestly, because I've seen it. Like, over the last years, I think it was developing. This year was trash. Yeah. Barely heard about it. Like, even too, like Bell, like they usually support a lot. Barely saw anything from them, and it's like. Even too, I think also too, it's a culture, right? We always believe men are the strongest, It's not necessarily true.
Exactly.
Like, we're a beacon. We support that. But at the end of the day, everyone needs, like, support.
Yeah. Men are alone. There's so many stats to back this up too. It's not even just opinion. It's men kill themselves en masse successfully. Men are alone. Men have unhealthy habits. They turn to drugs and vices because we don't talk about this. We don't provide this openness to talking about men's well-being, physical and mental well-being, and it's something I'm so passionate about, and it just makes me mad that society ignores this.
I heard this one thing where it's like men are only valued by like how hard they work,
or what they provide,
where like women are valued like, man, like,
yeah,
fucking. Like, I'm not saying like for nothing, but I'm saying like their beauty,
even
their
to, like,
beauty, their like, their services, their beauty, where men have to really fucking prove it. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's like, it's real, man.
So, I'll bring this up. So, I was at a party. We had this big conversation. I said, okay, if you're on a dating on Hinge or Tinder, Bumble, whatever the hell you want, if you're swiping through and you see a guy, great looking, but he works at McDonald's, okay? You have a great looking guy who's a lawyer. Automatically, as a woman, where do you think they're probably going? They're going to go for the higher status, because a lot of the time it's who's going to be a better provider. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily like what you think. It's never thought process. It's always what's going to be better for us or me. Sorry.
This guy's talking like he's Italian or something.
Yeah, I know, right?
Shit.
I hang out too much with you.
Holy
But at the
shit.
end of the day, it's like a lot of men, we're valued on how much you can provide.
Our function.
Yeah.
And I think, a lot of this is primal, right? It's 10,000, 20,000 years of human DNA wiring. So I'll let some of that slide. But society does not treat us equally. And I think a really good example for the listener, if you're looking for some grounding here, is look at fitness companies. Let's use Gymshark as an example. And I like Gymshark, right? Ben Francis is a great guy and it's a great company. But they have absolutely zero unhealthy looking male models.
Why?
They do not treat women the same, right? So we don't need to dive into that too deeply, but there is disparity there, and men look at that. I'm a man, I look at that, right? And I see, okay, so the standard for Gymshark is absolutely shredded, and frankly, a lot of these guys use steroids, right? That's unachievable, natural. But for the opposite sex, you have a lot of equality of access to what is defined as fitness. That inequality is crippling men, and people are killing themselves because they see those posts.
That is so fucking crazy you said that, Norrie, because like honestly, bro, I never really thought about it like that, bro. Because like women do get the leeway in the sense of like, oh, you're big, you're so beautiful.
I feel like men's standards are higher. It's like it's not.
No, but man,
They are,
like, think about it.
though.
Fucking Lizzo had a fucking diet thing like the other day. Honestly, like what was in her diet? A bunch of unhealthy food, man. But like he's right in the fact that like women get this bypass of like you're beautiful, whatever, like big models and shit. Where man, it's like you have to be fucking shredded and you have to fucking look good and you have to provide. I've never fucking heard that before, bro.
It's true though. Like it's a saddest thing because we like everyone knows it's true. No one wants to talk about it. That's at the end of the day. That's the figment truth.
Why do you think that is?
People are scared. People are scared.
It's
scared. It's a fear. It's a fear of being canceled.
It's
literally.
There's the fear of being canceled is a problem across many aspects of society. But I look at this and I think, what if you're a man who is unhealthy and who doesn't have the body that they want or see on the internet? You have one friend. You don't have a close relationship with your family. You're living in a basement somewhere. Imagine what is going through your head because what you see on the internet every day. That is so sad, and it tears me apart. And like, if you're a man listening to this podcast and you feel alone, or if you feel like you're in this bucket, man, message me, message Coca,
hit us
Rico, and just talk to us, man. Come hang out, come grab coffee. Like, you are not alone. We see what's going on in society. Man, we got you.
That's facts. What you said is you're not alone, yo. Like, you know what I mean? I'm sure all three of us have been through our stages in life where we're fucking just like, yo, like, fuck this. And as man, we're more radical. As man, we can justify shit that shouldn't be justified because we have that fucking like, let's do it.
Even I'll say this.
That's important.
Confidence is built. You're not born with it. Some of us, maybe. Bullshit. It's built. It's what you do daily. It's who you surround yourself. Listen, you can have confidence. You can be confident in your skills, your intelligence, how the way you speak. Doesn't need to be the way you look. Confidence is built. Put yourself around the right people, you'll have confidence. It'll put you on. And that's what will make you a better man.
That's important though, like surrounding yourself with the right people, right? So like I guess like for all of us, like you know, like how important is it to be surrounded by sharks and not people who are like flaking?
It is mission critical to surround yourself by people you look up to and you respect and respect you back. Like I'd say I have two major communities, right? Real estate investors and real estate experts, and then fitness experts. And in both of those groups, I'm at the bottom of success in fitness, and I'm at the bottom of success in real estate. And that pushes me, let's say it's 10% more every day. That 10% compounding, and one of your other episodes recently talked about compound interest. Compound interest is not just money. Compound interest is inspiration. When that builds across 5 years of me looking up to these people, achieving more than me, maybe I'll never achieve what they achieve, but I'm going to achieve a hell of a lot more because I'm looking up to these people and I'm competing with these people and I'm trying to attain and achieve what they compete. I just built an empire because I surrounded myself with people who did the same thing or better than me.
Yeah.
It's a hack. It's a life hack.
Yeah.
They even say, why do you think they tell you run behind someone? Because when you see them running faster than you, what happens? You're like, I got to catch them.
They also say like you want to be the smallest fish in the tank.
100%.
Because they're just fucking learning from
Never
all
be the
big
smartest
fish.
one in a room. We've all heard this. Like, even too, it's like, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room.
You're getting dumber.
Yeah.
You're getting dumber in that room. Like, it's the concept of pacemakers. right? Like all marathons have these pacemakers. So people who run just a section of the marathon, they don't run the entire 26 miles, but they run a section of it at a really high pace, and the people running behind them run more. So go out in life and find your pacemakers. Whatever the vertical, whatever the industry, whatever the hobby is, go find your pacemakers. You're going to crush it.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's crazy because like I feel like all of us humans have like that barrier that we can break, right? Like we have that light that we're blocking ourselves, right? So I guess like what is like a big barrier that you think that people find nowadays? Like why do they keep such a cap on their head where like I can't do this, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know my real answer, but as soon as you asked that question, Rico, I thought about social media. Like every time I open my cell phone, I am exposed to people who either are living the perfect dream life or they're faking it. Maybe more often than not, they're faking it. And if I see the bar, like that's the bar, right, is set so high and so far from where I'm at, like the cars I drive, where I live, the girls I'm with, why would I even try? You know, I think that's a big problem with society. And so many people get, I would say, false starts or failure to launch because they just see like, why am I trying, man? Like I can't beat these people.
Yeah.
And it's really sad.
And how do you approach social media then?
So I'm active on social media. But I think about my goals, like what are my North Stars? And they're not what these people are doing, right? I've kind of reframed, like what I want is I want to build a family, build an empire, and I want to be Grandpa Norrie. I want to be Grandpa Andrew. Like I'm just a family man.
Yeah.
I'm boring. Like I just want to play with my grandkids and go bounce between Hawaii
boring,
and Canada.
bro. It's not boring. It's like I think
it's valuable, man.
I think we're so clouded by social media that like I have to have it when we got. Nah, I think the best thing you possibly can have is growing a family.
Absolutely.
Grandchildren's, your kids, they look at you and they're like, Grandpa, tell me your story. I think that's the best story you could ever have.
I completely agree. And honestly, so social media can be very toxic and very dangerous for many people, but you can also hack it. Like I've hacked my algorithm where it's not showing me guys in fancy cars with bikini clad women in the south of France. Like it's showing me people who are lifting fuck you weights.
Yeah.
Right. And people who are traveling the world and learning new languages. And every time I open my phone, I'm exposed to this content and I'm like, oh shit, can't take it easy. Like I gotta go, baby. Right.
Holy, like so 2 hours ago, this guy was in the gym and I messaged him and I was like, Norrie, you're fucking ripping a workout right before
the guy came pumped.
No, but I knew cameras were on.
No, but I know what you mean though. It's super important to like tailor your social media.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have a bunch of lads open their feed and it's just a bunch of fucking ladies.
Yeah.
Bikinis and this and that. It's like, yo, what have you been searching all day?
Yeah.
like for real though, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's just really hard, right? What we're exposed to, what we think is the right thing. Like it's we never know what's right.
Yeah.
You never know. You could tell yourself, but until you sit around, like it goes back to what you said earlier. Until you surround yourself with the right people, you won't actually know what's right.
Like for me personally, it's a tough balance because I feel like there's so much benefit to social media in a business aspect and like a building your own personal brand. Like people trust you more if they look at your social media and they see a lot of content. Like they're like, okay, fuck, this guy's real, right?
Yeah,
but then it's like, I don't want to brag. I don't want to fucking show people what I have too much, but I know like I should for business. Like, I don't know. How do you balance that, bro?
That's a really tough balance. So we're gonna
I was just saying, remember what homie told us? He said, fuck that. Post and don't worry about it. Because if in that moment you thought that that's what the right thing was to post it.
Yeah.
Be confident in your post.
True.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, right? Like I'm active on social media, but I've made an effort, a conscious effort to make sure that the people I interact with on social media are people that I like and I respect and I enjoy the company of, right? So I post stories of me at the gym and I post pictures of me at the beach, right?
Or on the boat?
On the boat. It's a little yeah, he's single and he has a boat.
Let's talk about the boat.
Yeah, even too. It's like what? We're in Grand Bend. He's like, boys, guess what? What's up, Andrew? What'd you do now? Bought a couple of cribs. Yeah. Bought a boat.
Okay, honestly, radical left-hand turn, but let's talk about it, bro. Like, you bought a fucking boat.
What's that experience like?
Yeah, man. So listen, I think if you want to go the radical fire route, right, financial independence, retire early, people are going to hear this and, oh, he bought a motorboat. You're an idiot. And I get that.
Cares though.
And I'm a big believer in moderation of moderation, right? So for every 10 assets that I buy and build, maybe I'm going to buy a boat, okay? So I did. And I've got a boat now. And some friends gave me this funny advice. I told people, they're like, oh, you fucked up, bro. You're not supposed to buy a boat. You're supposed to make a friend with a boat. And I was like, oh, shit. Well, okay, I bought a boat. So now I'm the friend with a boat. But listen.
Now we have a friend with a boat. Right? But even to Andrew, I'll say this. Earlier, you said you don't have spending habits. You literally said the reason you got to where you are because you don't have spending habits. If you bought a boat, who the fuck cares? If that's your first spending habit, God, man, like, who cares at that point? You already bought so many homes.
After 10 assets,
it's like, sure, buy yourself
after
a boat.
After 10 assets, you buy one toy. Fucking.
If you buy a PJ, bro. If you buy a PJ, fucking cares.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think balance is really key. Like, there's so many people who are in this FIRE community, right? And they just live off of beans. And they buy as many houses as they can, and all the respect to those people. Like, there's people here in London who are absolute like hustlers who did that. But I'm looking to have a little bit more fun in the prime of my life. Like, I'm in my late 20s, right? I want to travel the world. I want to fly business class every once in a while. I want to have a boat. But I'll also go buy and build a bunch of houses. And maybe I won't, maybe because I'm doing this, I won't have 1,000 units by the time I retire. Maybe I'll only have 750.
You know what's crazy?
But am I gonna sleep well at night? Yeah, I'll be fine.
Fuck yeah,
I'm a big believer in the fact that because you fly business class, because you do this to yourself, your subconscious is expecting that of you, where you're able to like maybe grow a scale much quicker than the people who are fucking on the rice and beans every day and scaling heavy. You know what I mean? Because like you see it. Like, maybe this is a weird question, but do you believe in like manifestation, or like do you believe in like really being a visionary?
Absolutely. Like, people achieve this in so many ways, right? Some people do vision boards, some people do journaling, some people, picture the life they want, they meditate. All of these are avenues that are going to help you achieve that thing, right? You paint this picture with in your head every day via whatever the medium is, you are going to achieve that picture more likely than not. It's a great hack.
What do you think it is though? Like, what's that bridge? Like, why are you able to achieve more if you're envisioning? Or like, you know what I mean? Is it the power of the brain? Is it the power of like the universe is aligning stars because of like you're the only light shining? Like, I'm serious though.
I think it's like, for example, for my, like, at least where I'm learning, my mentor said you have to subconsciously like take over your brain, manipulate it, and tell you you're only gonna be successful. Like, I told everyone, it's like, if you don't believe you're gonna be successful, kind of ends there. Like, you almost have to believe in, like, they're not lies. It's just like, you have to dream big. If you don't dream big, nothing's gonna happen.
Have you always had this big dream, like Norrie, like from a little kid, you've always knew?
Yeah. So I was the kid. I was 3 years old. I had a $2 allowance per week, and I had to do a bunch of chores, right? I had to cut the grass, unload the dishwasher. $2. I would save that money up, and every single day I would dump out my piggy bank on the carpet and count these coins. I'm like, oh, I got $21. I got $22. I've always been financially motivated. I've always been motivated by assets because I know, when this all started, those assets got me a slushie at Mac's Milk Variety Store in White Oaks, London, Ontario.
This spot.
You've all been there. You've all been there. And now those assets create freedom, right? Those assets today are going to get my kids into a school that's going to set them up for success. It's going to get them on the best sports teams. It's going to allow us to travel the world and do family biking trips or sailing trips and create this incredibly strong relationship with my partner and I and my kids. And that's what I crave and desire. And you need the assets to achieve.
Throughout this whole podcast, you've mentioned the dream of having a family, bro. Mm-hmm. And like how important is that family unit to you?
It is my North Star. It's what my life purpose is. My life purpose is to be a dad and to raise incredible kids and create a family unit, right? And a family unit is not just your blood family, but a family unit is people in your life who are like you and have the same values as you and are on the same mission and journey as you. And I want to provide as much value to people, and especially men. We were talking about men, right? You can see how passionate I am for that. I want to be a football coach, right? And I want to work with kids who come from downtrodden homes and low-income homes. And I want to work with men who just haven't found their thing yet, because maybe having me in their life is going to change their life. And if I can live my life and change people's lives and offer value, that's what life's all about. Like, I can't imagine something that's more valuable than that.
That's one thing I can share for you. Like, not having a father there, it really puts you in a light where you're like, I'll be a father for someone else. Or even too, it's like, you see all the fathers or the parents or the dads, the men took time for us and like said, you know what, I'll help you out a little bit. Absolutely. Those were the ones that essentially made us to where we're at now. Yeah. Shout out your dad, bro. Straight up. And it's like, I think that's, I see it. And I see it and I think you're going to fucking destroy it.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Yeah. I am the product of people in my life and men in my life who whether it be 5 minutes or whether it be months, who took me under their arm, took me under their wing, and gave me that extra support and guidance in lieu of my father passing away. And I need to return that.
I love that, bro. And like, I guess, what are your like goals for the next 3-5 years? Like what are you building here? You say an empire.
Yeah, I don't want to build a crazy empire. Like I don't want to be 40, 45 and still working on this thing. Like I want to have a family by then and kind of be on a beach.
32. But, we say 32. We'll cut
there you go. 32. Yeah, maybe in the next 4 years we'll get it. But I do set goals and I write them down at the beginning of each year. And I know the January 1st thing is kind of tacky, but I think it's a really good opportunity to reset. So for this year, I had the goal of buying or building 10 units. And we're halfway through the year. We're in month 7 of the year, and I have 12 under construction right now. So just setting that goal. Would I have accomplished 12 without setting that goal? Maybe, but that's not for certain because I set that goal of 10. Now I surpassed that. And the next year there's a new goal, right? And then there's a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan. And it's still, it's I can change it. It's variable. It could be changed in the future, but writing these goals down, get yourself a journal, a whiteboard, write it down at the beginning of the year, check in every couple months and make sure you're pacing towards that. And you will be 10%, 15%, 20% better than what you were without the love.
But yo, I guess let's like, before we wrap it up here, like let's dive into like the tiny homes you're building, right? The ADUs, like I feel like you're solving a lot of difficult problems that real estate investors don't want to solve. They just want to buy a turnover key property. They want to buy something that's easy to fix where you're like, let's deal with the city. Let's get a severance. Like explain that process and like why it's so valuable to you.
Yeah, totally. So we're talking about ADUs, which is accessory dwelling units or modular homes or laneway homes. Every municipality calls them something different. But I'm a big proponent of modular homes or ADUs, especially in Windsor. So I was one of the very first people in Windsor to build through NC Capital. So shout out to Nate and Clark at NC Capital in Windsor, modular homes. And my first one was in the backyard of the first house that I bought in Windsor. And it does a couple things. Number one, it allows you to build equity, like literally create equity out of thin air without buying another property. So for an investor, it's another avenue to create equity. So I turned a house that I bought for $229 into a house that's now worth about $800,000 via appreciation of the main home, but also I built a 1-bedroom, 1-bath on a 2-car garage unit in the backyard off of an alleyway. And since then, I've then bought another property in Windsor that was a double lot. So it was a single family home on an extra big lot. I bought that purposely for the extra lot. I went to the city and I severed it, which is free, into a separate address. And then on that address, right, I just created $100,000 out of thin air by looking for that deal. I've now built 2 units, so a duplex in the front and a 1-bedroom, 1-bath lofted home in the back. And that's I built for $550,000, and it'll be worth $800,000, $900,000 upon completion. So it's this really cool idea for investors of creating equity out of thin air, and that's why I like building now. So many people, and a lot of the books are written about, the BRRRR method. So you buy a home, you renovate it, refinance, etc., and you create value out of one home, and that's a method that works great. It's worked great for me. But the BRRRR method, in terms of replacing the B with buy and turning that B into build, is also a great avenue for investors because you're creating housing in a housing crisis. So first of all, that's a great thing for Canadians. But then you're creating equity without having to buy another house.
Yeah. What's that barrier to entry for build?
You have to have the right property or the zoning rules, right? You can't just cram an ADU into a tiny little backyard with no parking. There's parking rules and space rules, and the ADU can only be so tall compared to the main home, right? But so there's some loopholes that you have to jump through, but you're creating equity, you're creating housing. And I think the biggest lesson that I want to touch on in regards to the ADUs is this awesome idea of creating equity from thin air. So with this lot, this is a great example. I have this empty lot and I build these 2 homes for $550,000, and then they refinance and they're immediately worth so much more because you go to the market comparables. So this is something I learned with the first ADU because I built it for $200,000. It was immediately worth $300,000, right? So you created $100,000. With this next one, I built it for $500,000. It's worth $800,000. So I created $300,000 out of thin air just by building. And this concept can be applied to so many incredible things: multifamily units, short-term rentals, vacation properties. And the goal that I have over the next couple of years is to go look for some of the prime Airbnb markets around the world, buy land, build vacation units, and refinance those vacation units after a year of proven rental income and create equity. So a great example, and this is like, pen and paper helps with this, but there's this great market out in BC, which is called Tofino, BC, or Ucluelet, BC. It's the surf capital of Canada. I don't know if you guys have
Surprising,
heard of
eh?
it. It's this beautiful, sleepy, foggy little surf town, and it's so busy and so well loved by Canadian surfers. It's surrounded by national parks, right? So it's confined space. There's only so much space that you can build in this market. And you look at the market comparables, a really nice cottage in Ucluelet, BC, or Tofino, BC, is $3 to $4 to $5 million. It's staggering. You buy a piece of land in this area of Canada for $500,000 or $1 million, which is a staggering amount for a piece of land. You go build a cottage for $1 million, you're all in for $2 million. When you're done that, you put it on Airbnb, right? It's rented year round, especially in the summer, but year round to anyone who wants to visit this beautiful part of Canada. You go to the bank and say, hey, I'm $2 million deep into this project. I want you to refinance me out. The bank goes to comparables and say, oh, shoot, we can't find anything for less than $4 million. So they refinance you at 75% LTV to $4 million. They give you a 6% credit card of $1 million. They pay off your debt. Your debt is paid for by the Airbnb tenants, and you just have $1 million credit card at 6% to go buy a house anywhere on planet Earth.
That's wild. So even too, like with this whole development, like where was the thought process, or who told you about this?
That's a good question.
Was it reading? Because I know you read a lot, but like you can know the knowledge, but how do you apply it?
Again, this is network and community, right? Like I've got people like Nate and Clark in my life who have the biggest ADU or modular home company in Windsor, that part of Ontario. And I approached them. I'm like, hey guys, I want to build one. Can you take a look at this property? They're like, yeah, we'll drive by tomorrow, see if it's possible. They map it out on this app they have. And they're like, yeah, Andrew, it's actually possible. And I'm like, can we do it? And they're like, we're just starting to consider, we've built, 4 or 5 for ourselves, but we're just starting to consider working with the public on this one. I'm like, what's your e-transfer information? What's your bank,
You're like,
your bank information?
First. Oh, got you.
I sent them $20,000 deposit and they're like, okay, yeah,
let's do it.
We'll work with Norrie. So I built one of the first ones with them. And they wanted to do a 1-bed, 1-bath, 1-story home in the back. And I'm like, oh, I like that, guys. That design's cool. Can we throw it on top of a 2-car garage? And they're like, let's check. Next day they get back to me. They're like, yeah, we can actually do that. So we built a unique design that they hadn't done before. Yeah. And then with the one on Aubin right now that I'm building, we did 2 bedrooms in each unit instead of 1. So we did a little bit bigger. And they hadn't done that before. And then with the one behind it, I wanted a lofted bedroom. So I've got the 1-bed, 1-bath on the main floor. And then for Airbnb guests, I want to have another space for them to sleep up top. And I'm like, hey, can we design it a little bit different? And they're like, okay, let's look into it. And the next day they come back and they say, yeah, we can do it. So the joke that I have with them is I'm Chief Innovation Officer.
Yeah, 100%, man. It sounds like it.
And the street term to that is, Chief, let's fit as many square feet in this bitch as possible, officer.
Yeah, exactly. Yo. So even to now, like you don't buy houses, you buy property at this point. You want land, you want numbers that actually make sense. Because for you, it doesn't make sense to just buy a house that's on let's say 1 acre.
But I feel like a lot of real estate investors feel like they have to quit their job. They feel like you have to do that. How are you financing these huge projects? It's important to have that income or
It's definitely important, right? So I still have a 9-to-5 job. I've got an income with a tech company, a Canadian tech company out of Toronto, and I've made the decision to stay with that company for the next couple of years at least because that income helps support my financing. So it's at my stage right now, while I would love to be full-time real estate, it's just not financially viable. Mm-hmm. So I've made the decision to keep that income, and that helps getting loans a lot easier. I use private money, I use B money, I use A money, but having that income really helps with that, and also diversification outside of real estate, which we can talk. I know we've been talking for a while, but we can talk about the diversification outside of real estate and buying businesses and franchises.
What other assets are you into other than real estate?
So I've started to get really into franchises, and I can't tell you the franchise specifically, but I'm in the process of opening a franchise here in London. That's a pretty lucrative business, and it's a really cool. It's something that I'm passionate about.
That's cool.
Fitness. It's going to be fitness. Easy. It's going to either be, I'll tell you right now, it's going to be a fire gym. It's going to be a fire gym. Or, what else could you do?
We'll chat in 6 months. And we'll see.
Exactly. I'll be there. I'll be there on opening day.
I like it. Yeah. Free invites for opening day for everyone here. Yeah. And for me, it's just diversification, right? Real estate used to be my one thing, and it still is so important to me, but we were talking about the jobs, right? Jobs, there's not 100% security to having a job, and there's not 100% security to real estate either. So it's my obligation to my future goals to diversify into some other asset classes as well. Yeah. Real estate's always going to be my pillar, but I want a couple of franchises and a couple of businesses and some other things to support this thing that I'm trying to grow.
Yeah. Amazing. So right now, like, have you dabbled into buying other businesses, or are you just real estate right now? Or is that something that you want to do in the future? Or?
We're in the very early stages of the business side of things.
The
right now,
franchise
it's
stuff.
just franchise stuff. Right now, it's just real estate, and I'm focusing on major redevelopments and new builds. Yeah. So I do a couple flips here and again just to create some money. It's good to have a couple $100,000 now and again.
Coming in,
But right now my main focus is how can I take a really awful piece of land or an awful building and turn it into a much better use. So I bought an old community center in Windsor, and I'm going to convert that into an 8-unit townhome, for example. Right? There's not a lot of use to an empty shell red brick building, but an eight luxury townhomes is great for Windsor because there's a housing crisis. And
is it a good skeleton? That's why you bought it, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it's essentially just a big red brick box at the moment.
Which is good, right?
Which is great. It's a blank canvas, essentially, so I can turn it into whatever I want. And a lot of the zoning has been approved for that already. So that project starts in September, October, which is awesome.
Never stops with Norrie, yeah?
Never stops. Never stop Norrie. There you go.
This guy's brain's like...
Yo, Norrie, like, we've been talking for a long time, brother. Anything, I guess, you want to kind of like let out, let the people know, or any advice or any plugins, anything like
plugs. That? I wish I had some plugs for you guys. Like, I wish I had, a big social media presence to share. I'm pretty quiet on that.
You have us, though. So we got you.
Yeah, exactly. So, Nüvida, great conversation. I think really what I want to close with is be mindful of who you surround yourself with, set goals, and understand that, whatever barriers you see to entry in this, those are not real barriers, right? Anyone who listens to this podcast can do what we in this room are doing. YouTube University is a big thing. Read some books, go talk to professionals, work hard, go get a sales job, make some money. And with that money, you can grow that compound in a really big way.
Out with the Devil.
Out with the Devil. And go read Out with the Devil by Napoleon Hill. It's a great book.
Yeah.
I love it,
man. This is honestly such a great conversation.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much for coming on, and like you're 100% coming back on in 6 months.
I'll be here.
To like a year, like 1,000%. Because I know you're a fucking monster, and you're gonna crush everything you put your head to, bro.
I'm excited. Thanks, guys. This has been a great conversation.
Right now you're on a boat. You're probably on a yacht at that point.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. There'll be a watercraft of some kind.
All right, guys.
Well, honestly, thank you all for like if you guys have listened this far. Thank you so much, and like make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and like. Coca and I are just giving you bare value.
Even too, listen, our guests are not stopping. I told you. Once we got on a roll, you cannot stop Nüvida. Let's talk.
Relax.
Peace. Let's talk.